When it comes to the pulse-pounding combination of the action and horror genres in the world of video games, nothing arguably comes to mind sooner than the hugely successful Resident Evil 4. Breathing new life into the franchise and regarded to this day as one of the finest pieces of interactive entertainment ever produced, the creators must have clearly had a vision in mind for this title from the get-go for it to pan out so well, right? Well, not exactly. It may come as a surprise that the journey to such massive praise was hardly a smooth one for Resident Evil 4, as there were 4 rejected iterations before we got the masterpiece we know today. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. As we already covered in our franchise Origins of Resident Evil video, the first game in the series was first conceived as a remake of an earlier horror game titled Sweet Home, but the project eventually shifted gears into a brand new IP created by Shinji Mikami, resulting in a complete reinvigoration of the survival horror genre. You can find out more about that game's development in our Origins video.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
Flash forward to the start of the 6th generation of gaming with Sony's PlayStation 2, Nintendo's GameCube, and even Microsoft entering the scene with Xbox. With new hardware and better technology, fans were excited to see what was next for Resident Evil, and so was the development team behind it, as production initially began exclusively for PlayStation 2.
Anyway, there are more important things than solving riddles right now.
You're right. Hurry and find that church, Leon.
Under the leadership of Resident Evil 2 director Hideki Kamiya, the first iteration of Resident Evil 4's creative decisions were a drastic alteration from the traditional gameplay style of its predecessors. Rather than the slower and more methodical pace of prior games, Resident Evil 4 was initially planned to feature a cool superhuman protagonist for the player to control, moving through a series of visceral and lightning-fast hack-and-slash combat sequences. Mikami felt this strayed too far from the series' roots, and development was restarted from scratch on Resident Evil 4. Kamiya's work wasn't a total loss, however, as he took those same ideas and spawned an equally successful franchise for Capcom known as Devil May Cry, which was first released in 2001. In 2002, Capcom officially announced Resident Evil 4 as a member of the Capcom 5, a group of 5 games to be exclusively released for the GameCube after striking a deal with Nintendo. The second iteration of Resident Evil 4, dubbed the Fog version, was first shown off to the public at the Tokyo Game Show that same year. Now under the direction of Hiroshi Shibata, and with the game allegedly 40% complete, things look to be finally on track for the project. This version of the game, which some fans thought would be a sequel to the now non-canon Game Boy Color title Resident Evil Gaiden, was to feature Leon infiltrating a castle said to belong to Umbrella's then unseen founder Oswald E. Spencer, while also dealing with his left arm being infected by the progenitor virus. However, the game ran into technical limitations with the hardware at the time, so the team started production all over again, though they kept Leon's iconic brown jacket design. First shown off at E3 2003, the third iteration's most obvious change was a tonal shift to more paranormal-based scares, with Leon traversing what appeared to be a haunted mansion, fending off hallucinating ghost enemies in a game that felt more akin to Silent Hill or Eternal Darkness than Resident Evil. It would also feature a recurring enemy known as Hookman, which this iteration is named after. Some of the elements in the final release were present, such as the over-the-shoulder aiming system, but overall, the Hookman version of the game didn't sit quite right with Mikami either. Technical issues once again ended up being the final nail in the coffin for the Hookman version. The game was designed to switch back and forth between the real world and Leon's hallucinations, but unfortunately, the GameCube had difficulty rendering 2 versions of the same room at any time. Thus, the development of that version was scrapped in favor of returning the series to its roots. Little is known about this 4th version of the game, as no official footage or trailer was ever released to the public, but after only a few months, this version was also shelved.
I'm sure you boys didn't just tag along so we could sing Kumbaya together at some Boy Scout bonfire.
As the saying goes, if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. So, after much trial and error, Shinji Mikami dismissed Hiroshi Shibata and returned to the director's chair, this time with the hopes that the 5th iteration would completely reinvent the series for a new generation. Mikami and other members of the development team had expressed fatigue with old gameplay systems, feeling it was chaining them down from a creative perspective. With a set of fresh ideas and newfound enthusiasm, they set out to fire all cylinders, making this installment the best yet. And suffice it to say, they knocked it out of the park. Finally hitting store shelves in January of 2005, Resident Evil 4 was hailed as a masterpiece, not just for the franchise, but for the video game medium as a whole, with every aspect of its design being regarded as a breath of fresh air. Instead of the usual slow and dumb zombies, the Ganado enemies were relentless, fast, and aggressive, keeping combat consistently suspenseful as players clutched their controllers tightly, white-knuckling the experience from start to finish. The graphics, sound design, and storyline were all top-notch, making for one heck of a thrill ride full of fun twists and bombastic set pieces. Naturally, a game this popular wouldn't stay exclusive to the GameCube for long, eventually being ported to the PS2, Wii, iPhone, and, well, pretty much everything you can play games on. Its influence still holds up today, serving as a blueprint for the perfect combination of over-the-shoulder action and horror, with the Dead Space series and even Shinji Mikami's latest creepy endeavor, The Evil Within, clearly drawing a page from Resident Evil 4's book.
Somehow I managed to get myself involved with the incident in Raccoon City on my first day in the Force.
While development hell is usually a red flag for disaster on the gaming scene, no thanks to Duke Nukem Forever, Resident Evil 4 is a prime example of this not always being the case. Although Shinji Mikami left Capcom after the development concluded, having faith in the project and exhibiting an inspiring amount of passion towards making the best product possible, despite all odds and creative hiccups, should stand as an example for the entire gaming industry. Still setting the standard for both third-person shooters and survival/horror video games to this very day, it was more than worth the wait during its lengthy development history, and it's still something worth checking out now. So, if you haven't already, then go play Resident Evil 4. Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.